All right. Hello. My name is Jeremy, and I'm going to try to do a reaction video, even though I'm really not good at these fucking things. Um, I'm very interested in this whole Generation X thing because I didn't know that all of us seem to have grown up in the same weird way. Like, I thought it was just my family that was fucking crazy. But it turns out that everybody's fucking crazy. These guys are crazy, everybody. So there's this, one of those psychology of Gen X videos where I guess they describe, kind of how we lived. And I just want to know if they're correct, if it's accurate, or if it's, a bunch of nonsense. Because I have no idea. So I'm gonna hit play on this thing. I'm gonna try to do it, and hopefully I don't mess up. Because if I mess it up and I get frustrated, I'm gonna turn it off and fucking forget the whole goddamn thing. See, I guess background on me. I was born in 1972. I was a little kid during the 70s. I was preteen to 17 in the 80s, and in the 90s I turned 18. I turned 18 in 1990, and then it was all up and downhill from there. A lot of crazy shit, man. But yeah, so we're gonna check this thing out, see if it's true, see if it's real, see what they say. It's called The Psychology of Gen X by somebody who calls themselves Jekyll Meets Hyde. And I'm still recording. All right, here we go.
There's a reason Generation X sees the world differently, and it isn't just nostalgia. We've previously explored the mindset of those who grew up between 1960 and 1980, but today we're going deeper. Let's start with something that would be illegal today.
Yeah.
Imagine you're 6 years old, sitting in the front bench seat of your dad's car. No seatbelt, no booster, just you, the vinyl seat against your bare legs, and the open road ahead. Your seat grants you full control over the radio. You're spinning the dial, hunting through static until you land on that perfect song.
Listening to disco.
But the real prize comes when your dad glances over and pats his lap. You slide across the bench seat, climb up, and wrap both hands around the steering wheel.
Okay, my mom did this. My mom would let me drive around the block on her lap. I wouldn't do that with a kid. Fuck that. But my mom did it, and I got the hang of driving. I mean, I was driving since I was probably about like that kid. And wearing fucking striped shirts just like this little motherfucker right here.
Wheel. It's huge in your grip. Your dad's got the pedals, you've got the road, the broken white lines disappear under the hood one by one, and you're steering every single one of them. By today's standards, this would be considered irresponsible parenting. But you didn't see this as reckless, because in that moment, you weren't just a child. You were someone who could be trusted. Safety regulations back then were more like mild suggestions. Nobody wore seatbelts.
No.
Most people wondered why they were even there.
Nobody uses
And here's
seatbelts.
another thing that wouldn't be allowed in today's world. Your mum pulls up outside the shops and tells you to wait in the car.
Yeah.
She'll only be 5 minutes. You watch her disappear through the doors. 5 minutes becomes 10. 10 becomes 20. You're watching strangers walk past, fogging up the window with your breath, drawing shapes in the condensation. Today's safety is a notification on a screen, a green dot on a tracking app, or a text me when you get there. But you built an internal compass in a supermarket car park while your mum was inside.
Well, if you were an only child, it was like that. But if you had a brother, you were playing. Usually you brought your toys with you in the car. And one time I dropped a toy out the window and I screamed and cried like a fucking idiot. And my mom actually stopped the car and went back and found the toy and gave it back to me. That was that. I got to give it up to my mom for that one, because if that was me, I would have been like, tough shit. And normally they would be like tough shit, but my mom went and got the thing.
You learned that safe wasn't a status update. It was a feeling you carried in your gut. Once you had that internal compass, the neighborhood became your kingdom. It wasn't just a collection of houses. It was a vast territory that belonged entirely to you.
That's a very nice neighborhood. That's not the type of neighborhood I lived in.
You and your friends. Think about the woods at the end of the street.
The woods. Oh my God. Okay. I'm probably going to show little images up here if I could find them and put them up here. But this was my grandmother's house. This is the yard we played in. And we had the woods right next to the house. I thought when I was a little kid, all the property around my grandmother's house was ours. I thought we owned it, but what did I know? There was the woods, there was a field behind the house, and there was a busy road behind that, and that was just like our world. We got dropped off, me and I had 13 cousins. We got dropped off at my grandmother's house when our parents went to work, or we went there after school. Like, we all lied about where we lived. We all claimed my grandmother's house as our address so we could take the bus and get dropped off all together. And as soon as we got there, Grandma said, "Get the fuck out." We were not allowed in the house. Get the fuck out, go do something. My grandfather had, if you look at the house, he had tons of antiques and tons of things that you could kill somebody with all over the place. And we almost died many, 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 many fucking times. And the woods was one of the first lessons I learned. Like, right before I graduated high school, the town came in and dug up the woods, dug it up. And I had favorite trees. Can you believe that? Like, this was my favorite tree. That was my favorite, shit like, and they tore it all to shit. And I was just devastated. They tore the woods down. And that was my first lesson, that nothing stays the same. Nothing is sacred. Nothing stays the same. All right, the woods. Sorry, I'm having more memories pop up about the goddamn woods. My friend Dennis had a crazy father who talks like that. God damn it! That's how he sounded. Dennis, get over here! I don't even know if that was English. This motherfucker was speaking, and he used to build bathrooms. Like, he would lay down the tiles. Like, he was an expert tile person. I don't even know what the fuck the name of that job is. But all his leftover tiles, we would see him walking down the street with the wheelbarrow full of broken square tiles, round ones, fancy ones, and he would dump them in the woods. And nobody stopped him. Nobody called him. There's a crazy man. They just let him do it. And we would take those tiles, those square tiles that you see on the bed, and we'd throw them at each other. Imagine 13 kids. I came from a mixed family, and this was a mixed neighborhood, so you had a bunch of different races of kids just fucking around all the goddamn time. And we would throw we'd be in the woods throwing tiles at each other like they were Chinese stars. Like, nobody gave a shit, and nobody stopped us. Nobody, what are you kids doing? We were fucking trying to fucking hit each other with tiles. And then there were certain tiles that were like special. Like, they were a certain color, a certain shape, and they were like treasure. And like, if you found a king tile, you were the king for that day. And I still have one. I still have a king tile. I'll probably screenshot it in here some way. But yeah, man, the woods. Yeah, we used to shoot bottle rockets at each other in the fucking woods. I didn't even get 2 minutes into this thing. All right, let's go.
Or that vacant lot behind the shops. By today's standards, these were dangerous, neglected spaces.
Yeah.
But to you, they were the birthplace of your independence. You'd spend entire afternoons building forts out of whatever you could find.
My grandfather was he was a jack of all trades. He had a plumbing business, a landscaping business, a tree cutting business, so he had all these crazy tools. And he had a big payloader, one of those big fucking things that would dig holes. He would dig a trench in the woods, town property. He didn't care. Dig a hole really long, so it had like walls almost, so we could walk into it. That was our fort. Jeremy, my grandfather was French, so he talked like this. Jeremy, take it out the way, we're going to build this thing. And he would dig a hole, and we would just be in there all day. Well, anyway, okay.
Drag home
So far,
discarded
this is
plywood,
pretty accurate.
heavy carpet remnants left out on the curb, and milk crates you borrowed from behind the grocery store.
We would steal those.
There were no instructions and no adults to help you.
No.
You were learning the raw physics of the world by...
We used to watch The Little Rascals for ideas. Go look that up.
trial and error. You learned that if you didn't overlap the boards on the roof, the rain was coming in. You learned the sting of a splinter and how to pull a rusty nail out of a 2x4 with the back of a hammer. You walked home with dirt under your fingernails and scrapes on your shins, but you also walked home with the pride of a builder.
My cat
You'd
was
created a
crying.
world for yourself, a secret place where the no trespassing signs didn't apply to you.
No
This was your
trespassing.
first
Nobody
lesson
gave a
in how
shit.
to deal with people. Without a parent there to settle an argument, you and your friends had to figure it out for yourselves. You had to decide who got the best seat in the fort, or who was in charge of the lookout. If you couldn't get along, the game
If you couldn't get along, you got fucked up. Somebody would beat the crap out of you.
ended and you were stuck at home by yourself. You learned how to negotiate, how to compromise, and how to...
Especially if everybody in the group decided that that day we're going to fuck with you, and you would be the one getting picked on, ragged on, made fun of all day long, getting rocks thrown at you. That was a shitty day. But then the next day it would be somebody else.
to stand your ground. You were building your character in the woods while your parents thought you were just playing. And then there was the bike. Your bike wasn't just a toy. It was your horse, your escape pod, and your first taste of
The
real
banana
power.
seats. Yeah.
You'd spend hours customizing it. You'd clip playing cards to the spokes with clothespins to make it
We didn't do that with the playing cards. We didn't give a shit about sports.
roar like a motorcycle. You'd wrap the handlebars in colourful electrical tape or add a banana seat with a tall sissy bar. You knew every shortcut through the alleyways and every jump made from a propped-up piece of plywood and a brick. You didn't need a map or a phone to find your friends. You just looked for the pile of bikes dumped on a front lawn.
That we didn't do because we had 13 cousins. We didn't really look for other kids. It was just the 13 of us fucking around on that street and around that street. And anybody else just happened to be there. I don't really remember other kids being around. I mean, I remember other kids being around, but there was 13 of us, so we weren't really looking for other kids like this with the bikes now.
That was the universal signal that something was happening. You weren't following a blue dot on a GPS. You were following the sound of shouting, the smell of fresh-cut grass, and the long shadows of the late afternoon. You weren't just moving through the neighborhood, you were mastering it. You're flying down a hill on your bike, feet off the pedals, wind in your face.
Flipping
The
over.
front wheel catches a rock. You go over the handlebars. You hit the pavement hard, gravel biting into your palms, blood already running down your shin. You limp home, knee throbbing. You walk through the door. Your mum takes one look at you, sighs and says,
You'll live. Is that what he says?
fine, go
You're
wash it off
fine. My mom used to be like, you'll live.
and get back outside. So you do, and you wear that scab like a medal for the next 2 weeks. There were no elbow pads, no knee pads, no helmets. Most kids couldn't
I
even
never
find a
owned a
helmet in a
helmet.
shop if they wanted one.
Never even owned a helmet. Riding bikes, knee pad, none of that shit. I think the only time I ever had safety gear was when I played soccer for the whatever fucking dumbass soccer team, which I hated it. I didn't want to do it, but I did it anyway. We came in second place though, so we must have done something right. But the only time I ever bought a helmet was for my stepson. Years later, when when I think us who were in a part of this generation were like, yo, you guys ain't going through that. So that's why you get Gen Z, who I'm not mad at. I'm not mad at them being a little bit kinder, a little bit gentler, because the way this shit went down when I was a kid is fucked up. It was fucked up.
But we didn't just invite the neighborhood kids over to play, we invited their viruses too.
Yeah.
You'd walk into a living room full of kids you barely knew, all of them circling one miserable 7-year-old covered in red, itchy spots. This was a chickenpox party.
We didn't do that.
The goal
in my
wasn't to
family,
avoid
no.
the virus, the goal was to catch it. You were there to get it over with, build the immunity and move on. Mothers stood in the kitchen drinking coffee while their children shared cups and toys with a kid who was actively contagious, on purpose. This created an anti-fragility that's disappearing today. You learned early that hurt and damaged are two different things, a distinction a generation raised in bubble wrap and safe spaces often struggles to make. Your mastery of the neighborhood didn't stop with the shortcuts and the forts. It extended to the machines in your life too. You grew up in an era where the things you owned weren't black boxes. You could see the gears, you could smell the grease, and most importantly, you were expected to understand how it all worked.
We had Atari 2600, but you could only play that for so long because you couldn't really save a game. So whatever you did while you played that game, that was it. When you turned it off, there was no saving. There was no coming back to it later. It's just what it was.
Think about the first time your bike chain slipped or your tyre went flat. You didn't wait for a professional or a software update. You flipped the bike upside down, balancing it on the seat and the handlebars. You got the grease on your palms and the black streaks on your t-shirt while you worked the chain back onto the sprocket.
Somebody had to show you first. Like, you had to go to an adult and they had to tell you how to do it. So then from then on, you could fix it yourself.
You learned the feel of a wrench and the exact amount of pressure it took to tighten a bolt without snapping it. By the time you were 10, you weren't just a rider, you were a mechanic. That can-do mindset was everywhere. It was a fundamental part of the air you breathed.
But not everybody had that can-do mindset. There were some kids that were a little bit slow. And they didn't have a word for autistic back then. You just got made fun of. And then you'd end up working in the mailroom at some shitty company years later, and you think I'm lying, I'm not.
You watched your dad under the hood of the car on a Saturday morning, leaning over the fender with a trouble light.
Those of us with dads at the house.
You were the one tasked with holding the flashlight, learning the names of parts like the alternator, the spark plugs, and the carburetor. And when the television started to flicker or the tracking on the VCR went fuzzy, you didn't call a help desk. You gave it a firm technical tap on the side. You'd climb behind the massive heavy cabinet to check the RCA cables, those red, white, and yellow plugs.
The other thing with this is the top channel turned like the top dial right here turned like the main, this dial turned like the main channels. And this thing was just, what the fuck is this for? If you put this on channel 3, you would get UHF, and then you would turn this dial and you would get weird channels with weird shows that were like from another country or something. And we saw like weird, me and my brother saw a weird version of Sesame Street that I don't know if I dreamed it or if it was real. But anyway, the TV was fucking weird. You had to smack it, you had to play with the antennas. Probably going to talk about all of that.
Were always tangled in a nest of dust. You learned that if you wiggled the wires just right, the picture would snap back into focus. You were building a mechanical intuition, a belief that if something was broken, it was your job to figure out why. This created a specific type of confidence that...
Not everybody was mechanically inclined. I definitely wasn't. I mean, as much as I had all this shit going on, I still don't know how to fix a lot of fucking things. But that's where YouTube comes in.
That is becoming increasingly rare. You didn't feel helpless when the world didn't work perfectly. You assumed that with a screwdriver, a bit of WD-40, and some patience, you could master the physical world. Today we live in a world where if your phone breaks, you replace it. But your brain was wired to look under the hood. You developed a deep, quiet certainty that you could handle whatever the physical world threw at you.
That would be more like my mom. My mom is a boomer, but she's not a regular boomer. Like, she knows how to fix a computer. Like, if your computer for some reason she liked PCs, I use Macs, but she got in there and she could fix it. She could take the fucking computer apart and figure out she knew all of that shit. I didn't. But the thing is, she didn't teach me either. That was the thing about moms back then. They did not teach their sons. They didn't. Like, I didn't have a dad. I had a mom, and she didn't this is how you do this. This is how you do. I used to have to ask her and beg her to show me. Otherwise, she wouldn't. So a lot of stuff she didn't show me. Like, she knows about electronics. She didn't teach me any of that shit. I'm not giving her a hard time, but it was just like, it wasn't important to show boys anything. Like, to women back then, And then turn me loose on the world not knowing how to cook, fucking sucked. But anyway, here we go.
But while you were tough enough to handle the world outside, you were smart enough to respect the rules inside. Because when you weren't okay, consequences were swift. You mouth off at the dinner table. Before you even finish the sentence, you hear it. The scrape of a wooden spoon being pulled from the drawer. You don't need to be told twice. Parents used wooden spoons, some used belts. We're not here to debate whether that was right or wrong, but psychologically it created something specific. A direct understanding that actions have immediate tangible consequences. Not a conversation, not a warning, not a timeout, a clear cause and effect, and that wiring doesn't disappear.
You just
But
get
if the weekdays were
smacked.
about rules, the weekends were about freedom. Saturday mornings were different.
Yes.
Saturday mornings were sacred.
Yes. You got up early, you get your bowl of cereal, and you sat there and you watched the motherfucking Smurfs.
It's 6:30 a.m. You're awake before anyone else. You
Yeah.
plant yourself in front of the TV in your pajamas.
Cereal.
The Flintstones, Scooby-Doo, He-Man, Transformers, or Thundercats. For the next 4 hours, that television is a portal.
Those are all 80s shows. I was that kid's age in the 70s. So we were watching like Groovy Ghoulies and shit. Look up Groovy Ghoulies. We used to have to watch the worst fucking cartoons. And me and my brother, we're cartoonists. So we would watch this shit and be like, this shit sucks. And we would wait for old reruns of Looney Tunes to come on to be like, these are cartoons. I don't know what the fuck Groovy Ghoulies is. I don't know what I don't know what this is bullshit.
And here's the thing. If you missed it, you missed it.
Yep.
There was no streaming, no catch-up. You had one chance, and you either made it or you didn't.
And not everybody had a VCR, especially when they first started coming out. They were really expensive. So like the rich kids had them. You know, you go to the house, see this big box, and be like, "What the fuck's that?" That's the VCR. We didn't have one until I was in like, what grade was I in? When maybe junior high, maybe after. I don't know, but we weren't like, we didn't have one right away, and we never had cable. My grandmother had cable. That was the only, and we were over there so much that I could watch stuff on cable there, but we weren't allowed in the house, so it wasn't that much.
This taught you something about time that's almost impossible to learn now, that some moments only come once, that being present matters. You grew up understanding that the world wasn't going to wait for you. Perhaps the most quiet, powerful lesson you learned was in the classroom. Education back then was analog, slow, and final.
Oh God,
Without the
slow.
internet in your pocket, your brain had to be the hard drive. Today, knowledge is a commodity.
And if you didn't catch on, they treated you like you were stupid. Like, I'm bad at math, which is, they used to tell you, what are you going to do when you get older? You're not going to have a calculator wherever you go. Bitch, look at my phone. So we did end up having they would tell us, you're not going to have a calculator everywhere. Yes, I am, motherfucker. Turns out they were wrong. And I was so bad at math, and I used to raise such a fuss, and I was kind of a destructive kid in second grade, that they put me in the corner and gave me one of those things with the beads on it that you count. Yeah, give this to Jeremy. He's fucking stupid, so let him fucking. Jesus Christ. I don't know if I don't. I'm pretty sure they don't do that to kids in this day and age.
Something you Google and then immediately forget. But for you, if you wanted to know a date in history or the capital of a country, you couldn't just look it up mid-sentence. You had to know it. You had to own that information.
Yeah, memorizing.
Think about the sound of the mimeograph machine, that rhythmic
whatever the fuck that is. We didn't have one, not in my school.
Thump swish as it turned out purple-inked worksheets that were still damp and smelled like chemicals.
Yes. The smell of the paper when you got it, when it came right out of the machine. Maybe it was this machine, I don't know, but it had a certain smell, and everybody be like, if you watch Fast Times at Ridgemont High, you'll see them do it.
Today, a student gets a PDF on a tablet with a dozen clickable links and distractions.
Really?
But you had a number 2 pencil and a single piece of wide-ruled paper. If you made a mistake, you couldn't just hit undo. You had to erase it, deal with the smudge, and keep going. This taught you that actions have weight, that you couldn't just reset your way out of a mess. This built a focus muscle that is almost impossible for kids to develop today. When you were writing an essay, you didn't have 20 tabs open for research. You didn't have notifications popping up every 30 seconds to pull your attention away.
I never thought about this, how it must be in class for kids now. I mean, we had like 3 computers in our school that you had to like ask for time to use it. And I used to use this thing called Microzine, one of the first computer programs that you could use to draw. And look, I drew shit like this. This is a real thing I drew in the 80s. But now I draw like this. I'm fucking badass. But but yeah, we didn't really have computers in the school. Really, no. Not at all. Going to the library, fucking looking up shit. I hated it.
You had your notes, your textbook, and your own thoughts. You learned how to follow a single thread of logic for an hour at a time.
Not really. Maybe some kids did, but I didn't. I used to do my projects the period before the class they were due. And I just fudged it. And I don't know how I graduated that. I don't know how I passed.
While today's world is addicted to the skim, you were trained for the deep dive. And then there was the library. Today, research is a 3-second search that requires no physical effort. But back then, it was a hunt. You'd stand in front of the wooden card catalogue, pulling out long, narrow drawers and flipping.
I'm not nostalgic for this shit. I'm not. Maybe some people are like, yeah, man, back in the day, you used to have to blah, 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 blah. I hated this shit. I got a library card because I was all excited about going to the library. When I was just starting junior high, I was like, man, I'm going to have to get a library card. I better get one. I got one. I never used it. Never used it, not once. Never. Because I remember opening those fucking drawers, flipping through the thing, trying to find a book to do a goddamn report on some stuff I didn't even give a shit about.
Through thousands of typed cards, you were learning that information has a cost, it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes movement. Because you had to work for your knowledge, you valued it more, you earned it.
Not really.
While you were mastering the classroom, you were mastering the social world at the mall. Before the internet turned identity into a digital
All right, let's see if they get this right. If this is about social interaction, we'll
profile,
see.
The mall was your physical social media. It was the high-stakes laboratory where you learned how to exist in a crowd. Think about the ritual of being dropped off at the entrance with a $10 note in your pocket.
Depends on what kind of kid you were.
You weren't there to shop. Not really. You were there to see and be seen. You walked the circuit from the
What in the Partridge Family shit is this?
food court to the record store, and finally to the arcade. Every step was a lesson in social navigation.
Who's this motherfucker with the no shirt on? This has got to be AI. This is what AI thinks went on. There was no motherfuckers standing around with... Actually, you know what? Maybe. This might have been the generation just a little bit before mine. Like, because I remember pictures of my older friends hanging out in a parking lot in Huntington, the town of Huntington, in a parking lot, no shirts, bandanas, fucking drinking. So maybe this might be a little bit of accuracy to it.
You were learning how to read a room, how to tell who was friendly, who was trouble, and where you fit into the mix.
Yeah, if you were black, don't even go in there.
This was the era of physical identity. If you wanted to be a part of a subculture, you had to wear it.
Yeah.
You chose your tribe through your clothes, the band t-shirts, the flannels, the scuffed Doc Martens, or the neon windbreakers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you were lucky, you had this many punk kids at your school. If you were involved, like I was, in the underground, whatever, punk scene in the 80s, yeah, you were lucky if you had that many. You had that many or less. Nothing more than what's in that picture. And the rest of the school fucking hated us. Oh, man. You got shit on. And, yeah, there were fights. And there was, there was shit. Even kids we thought we were cool with, after graduation, we went to a party. And the whole fucking party surrounded us. And we're like, what are you guys doing? You fucking freaks can't be here. And like, we just said, yo, we're coming back. We just named certain dangerous people who were older that we knew. And I said, we were like, okay, if you guys want to fuck us up, we'll just come back with this person, this person, this person. They were like, oh, wait. Don't get, I'll say his name. Don't bring Snake. We were going to go get our friend Snake, who was fucking crazy and should not have been hanging out with us since he was like 30 years old and we were like 17, whatever. Oh my God. The shit that people did back then, including us, we weren't that. I can't get into it right now, but yeah. If you had to walk the walk, you had to know the bands. Or you got called a poser, or you can get your ass beat. I mean, the first day I went to a CBGB's hardcore matinee, somebody clocked me in the fucking head. boom, like, welcome, motherfucker, you from Long Island? Boom! I don't know who did it. All I know is I was there to see Raw Deal, and I was all excited because I had the Raw Deal demo that my friend taped for me, and I was all, yeah, boom! I ended up sitting at the back of the show like this, like, what the fuck happened? What did I do? You know, but that's how it was. That's how it was.
But here was the catch. You had to stand behind those choices in person.
Yeah.
There was no hiding behind a screen or a curated feed. If you dressed like a skater, you had to be able to talk the talk and walk the walk with other skaters in the real world. You couldn't just post an aesthetic, you had to live it.
No, there was no what I call performative living, which even I do a little bit now. I only post my artwork online, but people really get into it they'll set up a camera of them reading a book and they'll be like, oh, I'm at peace. Really? Are you? You have to fucking you have to set the camera up. How at peace are you? If you were really at peace, you wouldn't need the fucking camera, so go fuck yourself.
As you got older, that sense of independence took on a new form. It wasn't just about where you could go on your bike anymore, it was about what you could earn. For Generation X, your first job wasn't a resume builder or a supervised internship. It was a raw, unfiltered introduction to the adult world.
Yeah, if
Think
this
about
is gonna,
the paper route.
if they're gonna talk about delivering papers, there was a building behind the projects that I grew up. It was the projects. It wasn't the projects like in the Bronx, but it was a housing project, and behind it was where, I don't know, we called it the old folks home. I don't know. It was like apartments, but elderly people lived there from what I remember. And we used to have to deliver paper there, and they were rotten motherfuckers. Let me tell you, they treated us like fucking shit. They didn't want to pay. They were assholes, and it fucking sucked. It didn't teach me about responsibility. It taught me how I didn't fucking like old people. They were a bunch of rotten bastards, you know? And you couldn't catch them on film. There were no cameras, so people talk to you however the fuck, you know? You know how some people get caught saying dumb shit to people online, and they'll be like, yeah, go ahead, film me. There was no filming. Like, you had, like, this guy down the road called me this, this, and this, and all he had to do was say, no, I didn't.
If you were 12 or 13, this was your first contract. People relied on you to bring the world to their doorstep. You'd wake up at 5 a.m. while the house was still silent and the air was freezing. You'd sit on the garage floor,
Now that I think about it, I didn't have the paper route. It was my cousin John that had it. I just went with him for some reason. I don't know if he gave me money or I don't know. I went with them, but these people sucked, and he did all the work. Why was I with him? I don't even remember what the fuck I was doing there. I didn't. It was his paper route, not mine.
Heavy Sunday editions and snapping thick rubber bands around them. You'd load up a canvas bag that weighed half as much as you.
Okay, I think he paid me and I was helping him because I remember tying things now, just barely. Man, this is a long time ago. You're talking like maybe 1984, 85. Ooh.
You did, slinging it over your shoulder before pedaling out into the dark. You learned the weather in a way most people never do. You learned how to navigate a neighborhood by memory, hitting the same porch at the same time every single day, and once a month you had to go collecting. You'd knock on doors, stand on the porch, and look an adult in the eye to ask for the money they owed.
Bunch of fucking assholes is what they were.
You were learning how to handle rejection, how to keep a ledger, and how to be responsible for a service. If the paper was wet, you heard about it. You weren't a child in those moments, you were a local businessman.
Now my paper's wet, you little asshole. That was one thing that adults used to love to call you little asshole. Everywhere they could talk to you like that.
And for those who didn't have a route, there was the fast food counter or the local grocery store. This was before the age of touch screens and automated kiosks. If you worked the register, you had to be fast with mental math.
And I was really bad with math, like I said. I worked at a hamburger place. They tried to have me work the register. It lasted one day. Not everybody could do the things that they were asked to do. If you couldn't do it, they just said, "Dumb, Jeremy can't do that. Don't get him away from the people. He's just going to start cursing at them."
When the machine jammed, you didn't panic. You grabbed a pen and a pad of paper and you calculated the tax by hand. You were part of a team where the manager was often only 19 themselves, and you learned how to survive a Friday night rush without a computer to tell you how many.
This dude's voice is too mellow for this shit. And he's describing it in some philosophical type of way. It was, it's, you learned how to do this. And you learned how to do, fuck that, man. It sucked. We didn't have technology. And you got paid very little. My first job, I made $3.75 an hour.
Many burgers were left in the bin. You were working in environments that were loud, greasy, and often high pressure. You learned the value of $1 because you knew exactly how many floors you had to mop or how many bags of groceries you had to carry to earn it. There was no direct deposit that just appeared in an app. You were handed a physical paycheck.
Yeah, I remember that, man. I remember right up until the early 2000s getting a check, walking to the bank and either depositing it and keeping some of it or whatever, or just cashing it. But yeah, man, I was not good with any of that money shit. I was bad at writing checks and keeping a checkbook. I was so glad when the technology came and it made it easier just to buy shit. It used to be a pain in the ass.
You walked it into a bank, stood in line, and felt the weight of that paper in your hand. This built a grit that stays with you today.
No. It built a, I'm glad that fucking shit's over with attitude. Because I'm glad that fucking shit's over with.
You spend your life figuring out how to get the job done when no one is watching.
Yeah, I get it. Because I work with some people that are younger than me. And sometimes I ask another department to do something. And I'm waiting and I end up doing it myself. Because I ain't got time for this motherfucking bullshit.
As you moved into those teenage years, you entered a space that simply doesn't exist anymore. You were a latchkey kid, letting yourself into an empty house with a key around your neck. There was a note on the table, and for the next 4 hours you were the master of your own time.
I came home, and the first thing I did was watch the Smurfs. Yep. The Smurfs came on, I think at like 3 in the afternoon. I'm not sure what channel it was, but I remember watching the Smurfs in the afternoon when I got home. And this is when I was in high school. Fuck, I still watch the goddamn Smurfs. I fucking love it. I don't give a fuck what anybody says.
Nobody was structuring your afternoon. Today, a kid's schedule is managed like a corporate merger. Tutoring, soccer, organised playdates. But you...
we played soccer and shit on teams, and you had to kind of like be scheduled to do those things. I did it once, and I didn't like it. So I didn't like being on a schedule.
You had the gift of boredom. And boredom is the birthplace of creativity.
Yeah, that's where I learned to draw, being bored.
Every phone call was an exercise in social courage. You'd stand in the kitchen, stretching the tangled, yellowed phone cord as far as it would go for a hint of privacy. You dialed a home phone, not a smartphone, because they didn't exist yet. You had to bypass the gatekeeper of the house, also known as your friend's parents, before you could even speak to your...
Yo, calling up your girlfriend or anybody and having, depending on the assholeness, what level of asshole their parents were, like my friend's dad, he's passed away now. He used to hang up on me all the time. He thought it was funny. Hello? Hi, is Brian there? We don't want any. Boom. And he would just hang up. And he thought it was hilarious. And he did the same thing when I would show up there. I would knock on the door. Hey, is Brian home? Hey, Brian, there's a kid with a backwards hat in front of the house. We don't want any. Boom. He shuts the door in my face. And that was fun for him. He got a total kick out of it. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it. And sometimes boomers try that same humor with me now because even though I'm from Gen X and I'm older, I still look young. So a dude who might be in his 60s will look at me. I'm in my 50s. And they'll try to like say something funny, like the guy who runs the office where I work now, he's like in his 60s, late 60s or whatever. And there's a crack on the floor. And I'm like, they got to fix this crack on the floor. Otherwise, my chair is going to roll into it. I'm going to fall, whatever. And he said, that comes out of your paycheck. And I looked at him like, how fucking old do you think I am, motherfucker? Knock this shit off. Just get the fucking floor fixed, Grandpa. All right.
Your friend.
There we go.
You had to use your polite voice, state your business, and navigate an adult conversation just to get a, hang on, I'll get them. You were learning how to handle authority figures before you were even out of middle school.
Hi, this is Jeremy. Is Jessica home? Some boy's calling for you, Jess. Who the fuck is that? and if a girl gave you her number out of pity, or maybe she really didn't want it, or she has second thoughts, she doesn't really want to talk to you, all they have to do is say, I'm not home. Hi, is Jessica there? And you hear, Jessica, are you home? No, tell him I'm not home. And you can hear him saying it. Tell him I'm not home. She's not home. Boom. That's rejection on a level I don't know if kids know about now. I mean, they got to deal with nasty comments and bullshit online. But to hear the girl say, tell him I'm not home. And then you just sit there like, what the fuck just happened? Razor blades? I'll just start, razor blades on my arm. That'll be fun. Yeah.
And when you finally got out of the house on a Friday night, you disappeared into the dark. There was no GPS tracking your every move, no social media stories documenting your mistakes for eternity.
Remember, a lot of kids didn't come home either, fucking around like this.
If you did something stupid in a parking lot at midnight, only the people who were there knew about it. You had the freedom to be messy. You had the freedom to try on different versions of yourself without the pressure of a digital audience judging your every move. You were forming your soul in private. Oh.
If they filmed the shit that we did, some of it, like the things that would have gone viral, when I think about it, like the time we beat the crap out of these jock guys because they were fucking with our friends who worked at 7-Eleven. They were all Middle Easterns.
Away from the constant noise of instant feedback.
I'm going to have to... Okay, I got to continue this thing.
That patience applied to everything. It applied even to love. Think about the ritual of the mixtape. It was the ultimate Gen X love letter. You couldn't just share a link or a playlist. You had to sit there in real time watching the tape spin, hitting play and record with surgical... That patience applied to everything. It applied even to love. Think about the ritual of the mixtape. It was the ultimate Gen X love letter. You couldn't just share a link or a playlist. You had to sit there in real time watching the tape spin, hitting play and record with surgical precision.
Yeah, they were.
You'd spend hours curating the perfect track list, writing out the insert by hand, and perhaps even decorating the case. It was a
Not everybody, if you were new to listening to hardcore or punk or whatever, it wasn't on TV. And you didn't know any of the bands. I heard Black Flag, and I heard, there's a Black Flag, and I think DRI. Maybe a couple, and I knew I liked that music. I don't know why. I jumped straight from listening to Michael Jackson to that shit. Don't ask me how. And but I didn't know the bands. So my friend Mike, he'd been into that shit for a while. And he's like, I'll make you a mixtape. He didn't write anything down. He just made me a mix of shit. I didn't know who the bands were. There was a song that went, Redbone in the City. And I didn't know who that was for years. And I found out later it was Bad Brains. That's one of my favorite fucking songs from back then. And I'm like, I didn't even know the name of it, And you didn't want to ask because you didn't want to seem like a sucker,
Massive investment of time and vulnerability. You were giving someone a physical piece of your effort, and because it was hard to make, it meant everything. All of these moments, the long waits,
they're making these
physical
they making these things sound bigger than they were. Like, yes, it's thank you for the mixtape. Oh, you put so much effort. Nobody gave a shit if you put effort or not. If you wrote it down or you didn't write it down, you got the same reaction. Thanks. You know? It was, and a lot of shit, we would buy actual records, which is, ancient now. Play, hit record the song, give it to your friend, and then while you're driving your car, the tape would get eaten and it would get all torn apart and shit.
Efforts and the lack of a safety net were training you for the long game of life. Every time you look at the world today and feel like you've landed on a different planet, remember this. You're not outdated. You're carrying capabilities that are becoming extinct. While today's world is obsessed with performing for an audience, you were busy actually living. You developed a sense of self in a neighborhood without a digital footprint.
Yeah, that's what I say. So one thing, people live performatively. They'll set up the camera and they'll do something. I do it, but I do it with artwork. I don't do it with when I'm fucking sitting reading a book, which I never do. I don't read. I never did read. I fucking hate reading. And like I'll never that. Mostly, I'm okay with what everybody wants to do. I'm not one of those old guys who's angry about what young people are doing. But some things just seem kind of goofy, like setting up your camera while you sit on your balcony and read a book in a certain pose, and it's just like, I'm reading a book. So read the fucking book, motherfucker. I don't give a fuck. You gotta let me know that you sit around reading. Probably don't read anyway. I could do that. Sit around and be like, oh, look, I'm reading this fucking stupid ass book. And this is weird to me. If you're going to do anything performative, make it art. Don't make it about like, I'm driving cross country. If you want to drive cross country, go ahead. Why do I got to know about it? I don't know. I don't know, but honestly, if I decided to quit my job, well, not even quit my job, but just keep my job and drive cross country, I'd probably document it. I'd probably put it on. Well, at least make it interesting, Yeah, maybe, you know what, maybe that type of shit's all right, but when you're just sitting around reading a book, like, who the fuck is the fuck? All right, what else is to this?
And you learn to trust your own gut because back then you had to. You carry a rare kind of quiet strength that comes from figuring out who you were without constant input. You've had that internal compass since the day you first grabbed that steering wheel, and you've been navigating your own path ever since.
I got lost driving once. My mom had to come save me. I didn't know where the fuck I was.
There's a reason Generation X
Shut the fuck up. That was all right. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that it was like some kind of revelation, but the world that we knew is gone. Like this image that I'm looking at right here of all the kids in the woods, that shit wouldn't happen today. I mean, like we would climb way up into the trees and put nail boards across, like a V-shaped branch. We put 2x4s or like thin pieces of wood so that we could lean back. We're up 50 feet in the fucking air, leaning back on some flimsy shit, like as if it wouldn't break. And we were lucky that it didn't. The other thing we would do was an elevator branch, is what we called it. You would hang upside down on a branch with your hands like this and your legs wrapped around the branch and start heading away from the trunk of the tree, or whatever you want to call it, and start heading outward. And as you go, the branch starts to bend with your weight. And there'd be 3 of us on the branch going down like this. And then we get to the bottom and we'd all be sitting there holding the branch that's bent like a ridiculous. And then we'd let the branch go. And it would just flap like that. Sometimes the branch broke. We didn't give a shit. The woods next to my house was a dumping ground for every old dude in the neighborhood who had a business. If you had a concrete business, you dump your concrete over there. You dump your tiles. You dump your garbage. So there would be like these big slabs of concrete in the woods for no reason. And we're doing the elevator branch, and the branch breaks, snap, boom. We look right next to us. There's a fucking pointy slab of concrete like this that would have killed us. And we laughed. We thought it was funny. Yo, you almost died. Oh shit. Yeah. Oh my God. We used to shoot fireworks at each other. We used to build ramps out of wood and get fucked up. I remember one kid fucked his whole face up and he's bleeding, and he went home. He just got on his bike crying and rode home. We didn't even know where that kid lived. I think we just met him that day. It was like, what the fuck happened to him? You know, and if kids from further down the neighborhood came to our street, we'd be like, who the fuck are those kids? We'd start shit with them, or they'd start shit with us. I remember one time, this one kid who was kind of big, he pushed my cousin Jace, and Jace was like the oldest of us and like the strongest, and we're like, oh shit, he pushed Jace. My brother ran over and bit the kid in the leg. Like bit him, drew blood, you know? Yeah, it was crazy. Anyway, yeah, that was all right, but somebody needs to make a true Gen X childhood movie. And if you need stories, get them from me, because I got some fucking good ones. The only thing that ever came close, in my opinion, of a modern movie to what it was like was the movie It, because the kids cursed. Everybody was cursing. Motherfucker this, oh you fucking that, fuck this, fuck that, you fucking that. And when they had the rock fight, when they were throwing rocks at each other, because shit like that happened. And you got rocks thrown right at your fucking head. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this video will blow up. Nothing I ever do blows up. I do kind of live performatively in a way. I make my little songs, make my drawings, make my videos, and put them on. That's where I'm at peace with the world, because I had a pretty crazy life, and I really don't want to deal with anybody. I don't want to deal with anybody. I don't want to go anywhere. I'm at the point where I've had enough. If I could retire right now and never go anywhere again ever, except maybe to travel to like places I've never been, that's probably the only thing I want to do. You know, I don't want to go to work anymore. Fuck it. I don't want to go on a train anymore. I don't want to drive a car anymore. I don't want to do nothing. You know, I'm tired and I'm irritated, but I'm not angry at young people. That shit is dumb to me. Oh, these fucking kids wouldn't have lasted. Yeah, they probably wouldn't have. But is that so bad that they have it a little bit easier? Maybe it's a little nicer for them. Maybe people actually get in trouble for doing shit to them. Teachers get in trouble for if you grab a kid by the neck like this and dig your fucking nails into his fucking neck like what Mrs. Wendrowski did to us. You get in trouble for shit like that now. Good. Get in trouble. You know? You get held accountable for the shit that you say. And people say, oh, it's cancel culture. No. You talk shit, then you're going to fucking have to deal with it. Too bad. If you don't want to get, don't talk shit then. Don't fuck with people. Don't be an asshole. You know? I just don't understand how, like, nothing worked. And what I mean by nothing worked is everything was woke when I was a kid. We had after school specials. We had fucking people coming to the school to teach us lessons, this and that. You got to learn this, teaching us about the environment. We got all that information growing up. Yet I'm looking at the people my age and older. It didn't work on them. They elected who they elected. They say the shit that they do just to piss people off and upset people, and they say things like, everything's so woke nowadays. Dude, I grew up on Sesame Street. Everything was woke. I can't believe I'm using the word woke. I might cut it off before that. I might cut this video off before that. Anyway, I'm Gen X. My name is Jeremy. Go fuck yourself.